Definition of securitization. Securitization is a process by which one or more rights are incorporated into a security, so that these rights are no longer negotiable outside that security. Common title example: a car registration document. In the type of titles that interest us, we can select the co-ownership titles, mainly real estate ones. It gives the right to a piece of a building. There are two types of co-ownership titles: designated title, indivisible title. For instance, the owner of the apartment on the third floor therefore has a title that specifies which part of the building he owns. If, on the other hand, an owner has 10% of the building in an indivisible way, he does not have the right to live in. However, he will be able to benefit from a percentage of the rents or from the income of the building. Securitization of intellectual property. In the case of the securitization of intellectual property, it concerns an indivisible title of intellectual property. That is to say, a joint ownership of intellectual property, a system developed by Mark Deschanel. The system was born in a trust based on the structure of the Real Estate Investment Trust, but which is converted into an IPIT, Intellectual Property Investment Trust. In creating a trust, we add intellectual property to it, as for example, the IP of a book. Then list that trust on the stock market to be able to finance the film. Being listed on the stock market means selling part of the shares to the public. If you're not registered with the Securities Exchange Commission, you're not allowed to make a public offering, sell part of the shares and bonds, to the public, or put an ad in the newspaper such as "Who wants to invest with me?" However, we can call on an investor as long as it's a private solicitation, meaning call the person, make an appointment with, and submit the opportunity. Difference between private solicitation and public solicitation. Private solicitation: I know whom I am addressing. Public solicitation: I don't know to whom I'm talking, who reads the ad in the newspaper. A public call for savings: we cannot say that we distribute these shares, but we ask for investment. Scenario: 3 videos, 1 per situation. 1. You have a patent. How can you finance the production of the project? 2. You own neighboring rights or interpreting rights to a music piece. How can you finance a record? And 3. You own the rights to a book. How can you turn it into a movie? Every movie begins with a book. 1. Derivative work of a book and adapted to a scenario. Request adaptation rights. Or 2. A direct scenario. We have the right to direct and make a film. How to finance the film? There are 2 classic options for financing a movie. 1. Establish a company and sell a percentage of its shares, the equity. The advantage is that the film can be made. The downside from a corporate perspective is the taxes. In addition, the cinema does not have a good reputation in the public markets. A large part of the film's realized losses due to the Hollywood structure set up around the industry. For example, an investor brings $100 million, the film reports $250 million, and the investor receives nothing. The structure of Hollywood productions is made in such a way that they impose that up to the first $100 million profit goes to the studio that took the risks. The first 20% of profit goes to the star actor, and the next 30% goes to the second star actor, and so on. Sometimes it gets allocated more than 100%, even if there's profit. It's pumped out by the people who have rights to those royalties. 2. Sell bonds. Bonds, notes. The downside with this option is that if you don't pay back quickly enough, the film belongs to the creditor. In the 2 above options, there's a risk of bankruptcy of the company during the making of the film. Famous example, Gone with the Wind, David Selznick. There is, therefore, the finality risk. How to finance the film with IPSE? In the system of securitization of intellectual property, this risk is weak because the investor does not own the whole film but only the film rights, which belong to him forever. IPSE will ensure of the screenplay rights and the validity of the adaptation right. It will then carry out a securitization which can be indirect or direct. 1. Indirect securitization. Put these adaptation rights and scenario rights in a trust. The downside to this method is that they will be taxed. 2. Direct securitization. This process, developed by Marc Deschanel, is the subject of a patent that belongs to IPSE. The direct securitization method consists of the issuance of pass-through securities which are generated by the registration with the Securities and Exchange Commission of an indenture. In the case of a direct securitization, it is not an trust indenture unlike the previous case, but a direct securitization indenture, tax-deductible. This indenture takes an average of 6 weeks to be carried out by a person, and thanks to the software under development, this time will be reduced to approximately 3 days. It may also be delegated to an accountant security with knowledge of the legal financial links of production. By this system, the old process of privileged royalty, called the Hollywood system, will be totally eradicated. This is already the case for all films produced by Netflix. And in a world of increased transparency, this trend is normal. For a film of $100 million, a securitization costs $500,000. They resell it for $6 million. A parallel company called Dionysos, which makes sure if there's ever a problem with the film's bankruptcy, it steps in and allows the film to be finished. From there, IPSE distributes the intellectual property titles, IPS, to the market.